David Parker Ray, a name infamous in the annals of American crime. For the residents of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, life in the small town changed forever on the 22nd of March 1999. Our moment in crime is the case of the Toy Box Killer. David Parker Ray came into the world on the 6th of November 1939 in Belen, New Mexico. As with many suspected and convicted serial killers, Ray had a turbulent childhood. He lived with his grandfather, but on occasion he saw his father, who would physically abuse Ray. Ray claimed to have built and detonated explosives as a child. His teenage years offered no respite. In high school, Ray was bullied by fellow students because he was shy around girls, and he also began abusing drugs and alcohol. The sexual fantasies that Ray had of raping and torturing women began as a teenager, with the fantasies involving the use of empty drinks bottles. It was Ray's sister who discovered the teenage boy's collection of erotic photographs featuring bondage acts and his sadomasochistic drawings. Ray found work as an auto mechanic after completing high school, and after spending time in the army he received an honourable discharge. Ray had been married 4 times, with his third marriage resulting in the birth of his daughter and future accomplice, Glenda Jean. Up until his 1999 arrest, Ray had never been in trouble with the law. But the fantasies Ray had as a teenager never left him, and led to the torture of countless women. The location of Ray's home was perfect for hiding his criminal activities. Located just outside of Truth or Consequences and near Elephant Butte Lake, this, and the fact that his home was situated off a dirt road, helped to ensure that Ray had privacy. Ray's home itself was surrounded by 2 sheds, a bait trailer and a white cargo trailer. It was in the white cargo trailer that Ray committed his crimes. This trailer was the place that Ray called his toy box. Ray's toy box was handmade and cost $100,000. There were no windows and the door was made with reinforced steel and had a double deadbolt. Inside the toy box was a white sign with red letters that identified another name for the trailer, Satan's Den. Ray had 6 audio tapes that he himself had recorded, telling his victims why they had been kidnapped and what plans he had in store for them. The tapes are known for being graphic and disturbing, and the victims would be forced to listen to them while tied up naked. Ray's victims would be tied to a gynecology table that had metal stirrups, straps, and electrodes. He kept a wide range of tools to use, including sex toys, chains, wire, saw blades, a branding iron, and sandpaper, among other items. Ray, who wore a long black robe with a red cape while torturing his victims, would film the torture, and as if the torture alone wasn't enough to endure, a television set connected to the camera had been set up facing the victims so they would be able to see exactly what Ray was doing to them. A diorama Ray had created showed dolls posed in different positions of torture and bondage. Ray kept a coffin-like box in a trailer that was 7 feet long and had ventilation holes. The toy box was also home to photos and drawings of women. One set of drawings showed the stages in which Ray liked to torture women. He also kept a list of women he had kidnapped and tortured between 1993 and 1997. But the kidnapping and torturing did not begin in the early 90s. Ray had been making his fantasies a reality since the 1950s. It was Cindy Vigil's escape from the toy box on the 22nd of March 1999 that brought about Ray's downfall. Vigil had been kidnapped by Ray a few days earlier and had to suffer through the horrific torture that he and another of his accomplices, his girlfriend Cindy Hendy, put her through. On that day, Ray had left Hendy by herself to supervise Vigil, who quickly set to work freeing herself when Hendy left the keys to her chains on a nearby table. When Hendy noticed Vigil escaping, a fight broke out. Hendy was stabbed in the neck with an ice pick by Vigil, who then fled the property. Ray and Hendy were apprehended by the police later that same day as they tried to track down their victim. When the extent of Ray's crimes were realized, the FBI became involved in the case. Over 1,500 pieces of evidence were collected, and the disturbing nature of the case led to the suicide of one of the investigating FBI agents. The FBI and the National Center for Analysis of Violent Crime determined that Ray fit the profile of an offender who likely began pursuing his fantasies with willing participants and eventually turned his attention on unwilling victims. During interviews with law enforcement, Cindy Hendy accepted a plea bargain in exchange for testimony against Ray. It was Hendy who suggested to police that Ray's daughter, Glenda Jean Ray, known as Jessie, and Dennis Roy Yancey were also involved in the kidnapping and torturing of women. Indeed, Jessie would lure victims back to her father's place by offering them a ride on her motorbike. Yancey confessed in his interviews to helping Ray with the kidnapping and murder of Marie Parker in July 1997. Yancey claimed to have been under Ray's orders when he killed Parker, and, according to Yancey, Ray took pictures of the murder. This would not be the last time that the investigators heard of murder in connection with this case. According to Hendy, Ray had killed at least 14 men and women, burying the bodies in ravines and sinking them to the bottom of Elephant Butte Lake. It's likely that Hendy was telling the truth, as found in Ray's home during the investigation was a map of the lake that had been marked with several crosses. Friends of Ray have also reported that he told them he would know exactly what to do if he killed someone and had to dump their body in the lake. "I'd know how to eliminate evidence. The thing to do is cut them down the belly, scoop out their guts, fill the chest cavity with cement weights, and then use baling wire to wrap them up." The FBI suspects that Ray murdered between 60 and 90 people. During the investigation, 8 driver's licenses were found, and the women in the pictures were never identified. Land surrounding Elephant Butte Lake has been searched in recent years, but the lake itself has proven to be a difficult place to search. The lake is 44 miles long and 4 miles wide, and as a result, law enforcement has been unable to drain the lake due to time and expense. The lack of bodies as evidence meant that Ray was never charged with murder. Ray and all 3 of his accomplices were jailed for their crimes. Cindy Hendy pled guilty to 5 counts of kidnapping, criminal sexual penetration, and conspiracy. She received a 36-year sentence and was told she may be released for good behaviour after serving 18 years. Dennis Roy Yancey had wanted to avoid a jury trial, so he agreed to plead guilty to the second-degree murder of Marie Parker in order to avoid a life sentence, and in the end he was given a 20-year sentence. Ray was eventually found guilty of his crimes in April 2001. He went on to sign a plea and disposition agreement. As part of the deal, he had to plead guilty to all charges, including kidnapping and sexual torture, in the cases of Cindy Vigil and 2 other women, Angelique Montano and Kelly Van Cleve. In exchange for his cooperation, Ray's daughter Jessie received a 9-year sentence for her part in the crimes. She was freed after serving less than 3 years. Ray was then given the maximum sentence of 224 years in September 2001. But justice for his victims was short-lived. Ray died of a heart attack in his jail cell on the 28th of May 2002 at the age of 62. He had only served 3 years. Thank you for watching this episode of One Moment in Crime. Tune in next Thursday for a new episode. I wish you pleasant nightmares.